Welcome back from lunch. Hope you had a good lunch. Oh, everyone's coming in. Okay, that's great. Don't. Yes.
Are you recording?
Yes. Yes.
Are
Yes.
you
Yes. Yes.
recording soon?
Are you recording, son? Okay. So before lunch, we replicated player spawning and destroying. So now we have that. So that's good. However, it's not a very interactive game, is it? I can't move. I can't shoot. The client essentially has nothing to do at all. So let's make something happen. Let's do that. So let's start out by making just let's just say if it's base, then move 10 units to the right or something. Sounds like a good idea. So let's do that. So first of all, we need to know on the client. Here's the client. Which player am I? Right, because we don't know which one of these players we actually are. And I don't have any feature right now in the network to figure out, okay, which ID are you on the server? Do you have a question, Emmerich?
Suggestion. Could we just draw ourselves a different color on our client side, or is this all server side?
That's a great question. Yes, we can. That's a really good one. So let's make some way for... Okay, so to do that, the question was, can we draw ourselves in a different color? Which is a good question. But first of all, we have to figure out which player we are. So let's try to figure that out. To do that, we're gonna send a message when a user spawns. We're gonna send them a message when they spawn, I mean when they connect. We're gonna send them a message telling them, hey, you're controlling this player, this is your player. We're essentially gonna send their user ID over. But I mean, if the player ID or the player index and the user ID didn't match up, then we would send over the player ID, but doesn't matter. We're gonna send over the ID of the player to the new client, telling them, hey, this is your player, you're controlling this. So let's do that. So first of all, I'm gonna add a message, and I'm gonna call it player possess. All right, this is a nice word. What this message will do is tell a client to be like, hey, possess this player. You should control this. You're in charge of this player now. So that's good. So let's send it. So first of all, I'm gonna make a message, net message. I'm gonna make it in. I'm gonna make brackets here. Actually, that's the wrong type of brackets, though. There we go. So first of all, we're gonna write the header. So we're gonna say this is gonna send a player possess. Then we're just gonna write the index. So we write an integer user ID. And then we're gonna send it to this user. Alright. So this new connected user is gonna be told to, hey, I've spawned a player for you. Possess it. We're actually sending it before we're spawning it. For us, we should send it after. So let's do it after, actually. It won't actually matter with the way I'm gonna implement it. But let's just do it just to be thorough. Is there a problem?
No, it's fine. I have two message type files, so I'm confused.
Yeah, that's why I'm that's why I'm wrapping these in brackets here. So let's just comment these just so it makes sense. Here we are. Send all previously spawned players to the new user. here we do spawn a new player for the new user, and then tell new user to possess this newly spawned player. Okay.
Did we move any code blocks at another place? Because I feel a bit confused now. My code seems to be on the wrong places.
Well, I moved this player possess down under the spawn,
Okay.
so maybe that's what's making you confused. Well, I don't know if you can see it now, but here's the full user connected method or whatever function. Okay.
Wait, did you also wrap the second one?
I've wrapped every net message with these brackets, yeah.
Is there a reason why we don't just like make functions out of it?
We could,
I mean, you don't have to understand.
yeah, we could, but there's no reason not to, but there's no real reason to do it either.
Readability and just
What?
readability in the.
What?
Sorry, no.
And in my opinion, yeah, I mean that's a opinion thing. Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry for sounding mean. I honestly didn't mean to.
They were looking at me weird.
Okay, stop looking at Frederick weird. He's not weird. He's beautiful,
Sorry.
and he deserves love.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so great. So now we have these three things happening whenever a user connects. Fantastic. So now we have a possessing function being sent here. So let's handle that on the player, on the client. So I'm just gonna add that to the switch. So we're gonna do a message type player possess. Again, we're gonna fetch the ID. And now we want to mark somewhere that this is the player that we're currently owning. So I'm actually gonna put that in the player header as a global variable, because I love global variables. They're cool. So I am going to go into player.h. What's great about mechanical keyboards, I can really tell when you guys are done done following me. It's fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna go to player H, and I'm gonna do an extern int possessed player ID. And what I'm gonna do, because this doesn't make any sense on the server should never possess a player. And it doesn't really matter. It could have this function on the server. It doesn't matter. But I'm gonna be a little bit thorough and actually if client this one.
Then just default -1 or
Default -1. We could do that. That's a good idea actually. Good call. And we can't put that here though. We have to put it somewhere else.
alright.
Can someone? Okay, so now we made an extern. Can someone explain to me what an extern is?
It's
So-
the yeah, it's a declaration.
Declaration of what?
In this case, just an integer.
Yes.
That
It's a
we
declaration.
promise that this integer is gonna be somewhere else in the program.
Ah, very good, very good. So we promised that this is supposed to be somewhere. So what do we have to do?
Declare it somewhere.
Declare it somewhere. What's a good place to declare it?
Client name.
Client. We could put it in client main. We could, but since we're declare what
Spawn player maybe?
spawn player.
Yeah, like in the player. No.
Don't think we can do that. I don't think we can declare it in the function. I don't think that matters. Sorry, I don't think that's allowed. Generally, if we're putting a declaration in the header, we want to define it in the CPP. Generally, so I'm just gonna do that. But the other are fine too. I'm not saying it's wrong to put it in client main. Of course, we could do that. It's just an opinion thing. Generally, if I see an extern here, I'm assuming it's defined in the CPP file, so I'm gonna do it there. So we're gonna do the same thing, do an if client, and then do an int possessed player ID. And here we can type -1.
Emil,
Yep.
why did you do the extra in the first place? Why not just declare it in the header?
Why not just declare it in the header?
Could it be because we want to be able to know about it in some other script that's using the header file? Then it would still work to just declare it normally, but it's a no point.
What will happen if we declare it in the header?
For every file that you include that header in, you will create a new instance in that file. The same variable, right?
Okay, so yeah, so two people answered at the same time, but they had the same answer. If we define it in the header, then if two files include this header, in fact, let's just compile and see what happens. No, it's fine. I'm sorry if I have a rude tone. I'm really sorry. I don't mean to sound rude. No. How would you know? I'm not mean. I'm happy. Okay, I'm very loving. Okay, so I'm gonna build this, and let's see what happens. That's breakpoints. That's not right. Build. Aha. We get an error. Since we are defining it in the header file, and remember, including a header is simply the same as just copy pasting. Each file that includes player.h will get its own copy of int possessed player ID. Now this has two problems. First of all, they're not going to be referencing the same variable, which is a problem, because when I set possessed player ID, I assume that everything else that's using possessed player ID will see the same value. And two, you can't actually define two variables or two functions or any symbol with the same name twice in the same program. So since when this is included in a file, this gets copied over, they're all defining an integer with the same name, and that's not allowed. So that's why we get an error here. So that's
So what was the reason we couldn't do it in the method, like in spawn? You said that was a bad idea, but I wasn't sure about.
well, if we define it in the method, how are we gonna reach it?
No. Okay. But if it's extern, if we declare it extern and then define it in the method, we can still reach it, no?
I don't think we can.
It's simply just forwarded.
I don't think there is any way to.
So many people talking to me at the same time. Put on your headphones, like it.
Put on your digger dang headphones, kids. Yes, I don't think there is a way to extern. I don't think there is a way to extern a variable that's declared inside a function. If there is, I don't know how to do it. Maybe put like function name : or something. But either way, it's going to be used in a lots of functions, so it doesn't make that much sense to declare it in like this is the function that owns this variable when there's a bunch of people using it everywhere. Maybe it's possible. I'm not sure. But it's a good thought.
But even can't you put like consts in the header? I could have sworn I've done like global variables before in the header, and it was fine.
Yes. So if you put const in front of a header, then it's actually fine. because if it's const and it never changes, it actually never gets added to the symbol table, I believe. Maybe this is a compiler specific thing. But yes, if you make constant variables, you can put them in headers. But of course, the downside of a constant variable is that you can't change it. So, and we're going to be changing possess player ID to be something else. So yes, you can do const int and then define functions in a header. That works. But in our case, we can't use that because we can't make it constant. But it's only const variables that works in that way. Okay. So we have to make it extern. And I'm gonna define it in excuse me. Oh god. Then we're gonna define it in the player.cpp. Very good, very good. So then, in client main, when we're reading this bad boy, I'm just gonna set possess player ID directly. I'm just gonna say possess player ID equals the read. Whoops. Okay. So now, let's go. Let's make a few adjustments here. I'm actually on the player. I'm actually gonna save the ID here for the player. I don't know, I'm making it -1 right now for some reason, I don't know. We're actually gonna save the ID because it's gonna become very useful in a bit. So we're actually gonna save it here. And what we're gonna do was there something important that happened before lunch? I don't even remember what we did before lunch. Yeah, it was like all enums, dude. But yeah, probably not. If you don't feel super lost, it's probably fine. Oh yeah, we did like spawning and despawning. Actually, that's pretty important. If you feel lost right now, I'm sorry. You can ask questions if you want. So we're gonna save the ID on the player, just so we can reference it from the player, because we're gonna be referencing it in these functions in a little second to figure out if we have control or not. But first we have to set this ID to something. So I'm actually gonna add that as a spawn parameter. Just because I mean, there's probably better ways to set the ID, but this is the best one I can think of right now. Now my naming convention is not great, because now I have to write something stupid. I have to write this. ID is ID. It's not good. I should probably have written it in ID or something, but whatever. Yeah, I hate this. It's so easy to mess up. Yeah, well, I hate it. I hate it. So, okay. So now we're passing in the ID to the spawn of each player. So we're gonna get some errors, right? Because we're not calling it correctly. So here, spawn, we have to pass in the ID to the spawn. So ID. And then in the server as well. So in server, where we spawn, we do it here. We have to pass in the ID as well. Here we go. Maybe I should have just looped through all of this, setting the IDs once. I don't know, whatever.
Wait, where did you add the spawn?
Here, I just added event user ID to the spawn function. Okay. So now the player class has some sort of awareness about which ID it is. So now we can start comparing that to which ID is currently possessed. So what we can do is that we can make a function called bool has control. Alright? And what this function is going to return is whether we have authority to do stuff with this player. Do we own this player? And ideally there should only be one owner, and that would be the client that's controlling this player. Okay, so I'm gonna define this function. Whoops. 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 Okay. So a few things. We want to check this separately. This is gonna do different things on the server and the client. So I'm gonna start up with the server. So if server, we're just gonna return false. The server never has control over the player. Else, we're gonna return if our ID is equal to the possessed player ID. So if the if the ID matches the possessed ID, then we have control over this player. And this might be a little bit of a red herring here. That's like, does the server not have control? Obviously, the server is gonna have a lot of control to, like, you know, kick players and tell players what to do all the time. We might actually return true here, maybe. But the point is that if we're the server, we're never gonna be checking for control. We're gonna assume we have control over everything. Maybe it would make more sense to return true. Actually, let's do that. No, let's return false. Whatever. It doesn't matter. We're not gonna call this from the server, so it doesn't actually matter. We could have even defined this function to only exist on the player if we wanted to. Cool. So now we can modify the draw function a little bit. So let's say we want to have one color for players that we don't control, and we want to have one color for players that we do control. So I'm just gonna say if client. So I'm gonna first of all set this. Whoops. And then if we're the client, we're gonna do an additional check. We're gonna check if we have control. And if we do, we're gonna set a different color. We're gonna be, I'm gonna swap the, or we're gonna be add beef. I swapped the red and the green around, so we're gonna be slightly greener. It's gonna be so slight that I'm not even sure we're gonna see it, but maybe. Okay, so let's. I should probably build. Okay, we built. We're fucking geniuses. So let's start. Server up. Start a client. Client up. Okay, so one of my clients here, one of my little dots here is green, and that means that's me. That's the one I control. That's the one server spawned for my user. And hopefully on your guys' screen you're gonna have one dot that's also lit green. It's slight green. And when I leave, you should see that this is the player that disappears. So let's try it. So I'm gonna leave now. Let's see if this is the one that disappears. Yes, it was.
Yes.
Great.
I mean,
Yeah?
I can see myself on my screen, but I can't see myself on the circle.
What do you mean?
Well, I exist on my end, but I don't exist on the server.
Who said that?
And here.
Uh-oh. But it seems like your location has been messed up. So how do you draw? What happens in client?
jag gör konstant.
Well, you don't do anything to player.
Wait, did you do something?
Yeah, I missed that. So
Yeah,
we should set player ID.
Det är sant. Varje avsnitt är som en probably because if you look at the draw, it's like why don't you just wait, dude? Like you have a klocka.
Yes, here you draw every player. Not just players on the line.
Man spelar
No problem.
som en del liksom en
Can
vinklocka.
you move the windows a little bit because I'm doing the coffee stuff.
Yeah. Va? Snackar du om mig?
Yes.
What's up?
Va?
Vad bryr jag mig inte om?
Nej, det ska man.
Vi pratar om Skalman.
Skalman?
Har en motorsågklocka men han har aldrig gått.
Va?
Never mind.
Okej.
Never mind.
Henrik?
I would like to look at the draw function.
Draw function
Yes.
in client or server? No, on the player, of course.
Yes, we're.
It's right here. Wah, 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 wah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Could you show the server main again?
What do you want to see?
Okay, don't use break there anymore.
Oh, the break is down here.
Alright, now it should work.
Oh god.
No, still getting errors.
Man, I ate 2 French hot dogs today and I can feel them doing havoc in my stomach. Okay. Do we feel ready? What?
I just trying to find these errors here.
Okay. Actually, let's do 5. So I'm gonna go grab some coffee. So let's do 5. 13:40. We'll continue on. Coffee! Woo! Coffee, 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 coffee. Okay.
Settle down.
No one wanted coffee.
I was the only one that chanted it, and I would try not to coffee.
Okay.
Maybe I should
Fuck it.
Fuck the cloud. Fuck the cloud.
Jobb på där. Alltså.
Jag bara sen bara, jag ska kolla Twitter så är det intressant.
Början. Ja, men vi kan kolla på Google.
Ja.
Jag kan inte hitta vad som heter här.
Jag kommer inte ihåg.
Har du jävlar vilken liten dektör. What the fuck?
Men it's like,
What the hell? Okej, men ja, kolla längst upp i... längst upp i nej,
I don't even know.
Nej,
Där, explains it.
ska vi issue? Hej! För jag har alltid älskat dig.
Man kan ju bry sig vad man vill, men man vill bry sig. Det är ju inte någon. Du får göra vad du vill. Jag vill inte ha på det. Du kan ju knappt flasha på skolan. Det är det jag menar. Alltså jag fattar ju att det är lockande, men vi håller oss allihopa. Och det är den enda som börjar dricka på skolan. Free parking för skolan. Jag borde bara som är reklam. Känner du att du är känslan att det var okej då? Det piggar rätt någonting.
Man gör inte för att det blir bekvämt. Man gör för att det blir bekvämt.
Det där är ju typ en gammal jägarknep om du är utomlands. Att man testar en sån whisky på morgonen för att hålla typ magen.
Tjena grappar!
Men det är för att du käkar bara starka grejer som du är i Thailand. Men det är obviously det här är ett husmuskler. No sign of
Det låter lite kontraintuitivt. Drick alkohol som i sig är starkt för att fiska.
Okay, are you guys ready for some more action?
efter alla
Ready? Oh, I didn't stop recording. Oh well, it's gonna be a 5-minute break in the recording. Okay guys, so now we have found that we can possess a player. We can check whether we excuse me, we can check whether we are possessing a player or not and draw them in a different color. How nice. How wonderful. So what we're gonna do is to give the player some sort of action to do, something fun that they can do. We are rapidly reaching an MMO. Next, after moving, we're gonna add an in-game store, I think. So we're gonna do an update function for the player, actually. Alright? And I'm gonna say, if we smash that like button, space button, if key was pressed, I think. No, N key pressed. I don't remember the names of my own functions. If we hit space, we are going to move. So we're gonna do x plus equals 50. How simple? What could be harder than that?
Where is delta time?
No, we don't need delta time right now. Why? Thank you, Johan. Because pressed only returns true for 1 frame when we smash it. If we had N key down, then yes, we would need delta time. But that's good. I like that you're vigilant for delta time. Keep that skepticism.
Well, you could still bring it into the function, but
Sorry?
we could still bring it into the function.
No, because it's a global function, baby. It's eng
Oh, sick.
delta time, baby. We don't need anything.
So,
Baby. Yeah, as you see, I love global functions and variables.
That's how you're supposed to do it in the industry. Everything global.
Yes, just make everything global.
it's a global industry, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. All right. So
That was a good one.
By the way,
let's.
a value of 50 is going to make the character fling away into oblivion. So
Why?
It's a lot of times, I guess.
Well, the screen is only 50 big. Like, what is it, 600 or
800 by
800?
600.
Yeah, so, like, what is it? 8, like, 4. Well, like, best case scenario, you have 20 taps before you're out of the screen.
Yeah,
That's a lot of taps.
Yeah.
that's a lot of taps. I can't smash it 20 times. That's too much.
Do you reserve it with your taps?
I have fucking carpal tunnel. I can smash it maybe once.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well, whoops. I need to close down the shit. Okay. So let's try this.
Are we calling up there?
Sorry, Emil, where did you call up this?
Oh yeah, we don't call. Thank you. So we're gonna go to client main, and before we draw, we are going to up. Whoops. Before we draw, we're gonna update them all. Crap. Update them all that are alive. So if player alive. Whoops.
Wait, that is a bit first. Isn't it checking which one is possessed?
Sorry.
Isn't it checking if you have control of it or it?
Oh, good. I'm just gonna hold that one a little bit. Okay, and we're gonna do the same on the server. So on the server, we're also gonna update all the players. Whoops. There we go. So now we are updating and drawing. Fantastico. So let's try it. So I'm gonna run up the server. I'm not racist. So we're gonna put it up, then smash a client up there, and probably you guys have already kind of noticed what the problem is here. All the players move. Even worse, I can do it on the server as well. And even worse, it doesn't sync, which is probably the biggest crime of all. Because if it moves here, it should probably move here as well. So we have a bunch of problems. My dear. So let's go in and fix the problems one by one. So first of all, they move when we don't have control. So we probably should wrap this in a has control block here. Just to make sure we can only move if we have control. Nextly, we should not have this functionality on the server. The server should not move the players by hitting space. That makes no sense. So we're gonna wrap it in a client box here. This code only makes sense on the client. Love coffee. Coffee makes me feel good. Okay, so we're gonna start up the server and try again. He's here like bum 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 bum. Okay, so I'm this guy, right? So if I hit space, there we go. I go running away, and all the other people stay still. So that's good. So now we can personally run away from our problems. So that's good. But of course, we have the biggest problem of them all is that this movement is not synced. Right? We're just moving locally. There's nothing telling the server to move. So we're gonna have to sync that somehow. Is that Morse code? I think that was Morse code. It says help. Okay, so so we want to send a net message here to say like, okay, we have moved. Server, update our position to everyone else. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna add a new type of message. So I'll go into message type and add a player position message type. And what this message type will do is just update the position of the player. That's all this is gonna do. Okay. So when we key here, I'm gonna first update the position locally, and then I'm gonna send a message to have it updated globally. Net. Call it message. So I'm gonna write the header, not net message, whoop, message type. Whoops. Okay, so I'm gonna have to add a bunch of includes here. So I'm just gonna include, which is good. That means we haven't put too many includes in our header. So we're gonna include message type and network. Including these two. What do we write next? Very good, Johan. We need to write the ID of the player that's moving. So we're gonna write our ID. And then we'll just go ahead and write our position. So I'll just write X and Y. And then since we already are in a client block here, we don't have to worry about, okay, are we the server, are we the client? This message will always origin from the client. The server, in at least right now, will never send a player position to us. So we can just assume we're a client here and send, do client send message. And to call that, we have to include client.h. And then we have to do message 3. Sorry? Man, I kinda wanna look for a program that can like sync code while I'm typing. Just so you guys have like a place where you can scroll through what I'm writing. Has to be a program out there for that. Yeah, but I mean, I guess. I mean, they have like this code together feature here as well, but I have no idea if it actually works. Yeah, team. Yeah. Maybe I should investigate it. Alright. So now we're sending this player position message. Very nice. So let's handle that on the server then. So we at least update our position on the server. So this is the first message that our server will have to handle. So I'm first gonna read the ID of the message. So I'm gonna read message type. Message type. No, not ID, type. I'm stupid. Here we go. And then we're gonna switch on that. God, my brain is just completely fried. Okay. So, in case we are receiving a player position message, we are going to read the ID of the player. Which actually, now that I think about it, we have the user ID here. The server knows which user sent this message. So actually, we don't even need this ID here. So I'm just gonna remove it. Because the server will already know which user sent this message. And that means we can't nefariously move someone else by just inputting another ID.
I mean,
We can only move ourselves. Yeah, I know what you were thinking. I can read your minds. So now that we've done that, we're gonna fetch the player. Whoops. Fetch the player. Then we're gonna set the X to message read int, and player Y to message read int. So we're just gonna read the X and Y position.
Don't forget to make add result in the array to get the pointer.
Yes, thank you, Oliver. Sorry, Yuan, what was the question? Yes. Yes. So so I can see. No, sorry. Continue. I shouldn't assume. Continue. Yeah. It's something we have to remember. Yes. We could.
Rename it like player position clients.
We could. Yeah. We could have two different messages, right? General. I mean, I don't know. It's a taste thing, I guess. I mean, we could just put the ID in here, because then we wouldn't even have to remake the message. We could just rebroadcast the same. Let's do that. Yeah, because what we could do is something funny actually, where we could read the ID and check it against the user ID, and then if it doesn't match, we kick him. So let's do that. Player ID is message read int, and then if player ID is not equal to user ID, then Very naughty. Server kick user. There we go. And this will actually make stuff easier because the message forwards and back will be the same, and we don't even have to reconstruct the message in this case. We can just rebroadcast the same message we got in, which is also nice. No. Yes, it will send the whole thing. We can append stuff if you want to, but or overwrite stuff, but right. So okay. So player position function or net message. ID XY. Server ID kick if naughty. Get the player XY. So we're making sure our messages, reading and writing are lining up here. Very good. What's your question? It will cause an event to be added. It will cause this user disconnected message to be added to the event, but it won't send any message out unless we specifically tell it to. The users, the individual clients have no idea about anything about the other users. It's only us. Okay. So let's try it, okay? Let's see what happens. Okay, so stuff is happening, but kinda seems a bit weird.
I get kicked off after taking one step.
Did you write your ID correctly? Okay, I'm gonna try to make a client here and see what happens. I see some of you have modified the move function. Yes, let's see. So that's me. Yeah, okay, there we go. So it seems to be working. Oh my god! So it's spinning very fast. He's entering the big spin. Okay, so so does this work for everyone?
Yep.
No.
No, hypothetically.
No?
Oh no! I rejoined and the speedy guy didn't show up.
No, I mean it won't show up on any of your screens. Because again, we're only sending to the server that we've moved, but none of the other clients will ever know how or when or anything. So only the server will actually have the correct game state from every other player. Yeah. Philip, you have to wrap your stuff, your cases in brackets, like this. Like these two brackets here.
Okay, aside from here, where else did we make changes?
I think we only worked here, like these two places. And we added update before the draw on both the server and the client.
Both were exactly the same.
Oh.
Yes.
Ah, okay. I thought we removed that
I added it back. Well, I'm glad you guys are having fun.
That's the point of this course.
How did you make it spin? What's going on?
Sine cosine.
Yeah, sine cosine, bro.
Oh my god.
Did Freya teach you nothing? Freya was just rolling in her grave. Yeah, I killed her. No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. Don't tell her I said that.
There's only one future games teacher.
Yes. It's only space enough for one of us. Okay, so are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Sorry, me again.
Victor, what's up?
Oliver, look in the network program.
I don't know, something with my...
Don't include that on that form. So never clear up.
I'm connected. I can't move it on that cover.
You don't leave a mute on those. Even if someone on.
I can never enter here. And I checked to get my ID. Am I blind?
How do you... Okay, so... Go...
Yeah, I did this and that thing. I get the sign.
Campus på enkelt
Okay, it's correct. Oh, do you set? Yeah, you don't set the ID on. It's a lot of small things to remember.
This should work though.
Thank you.
No, no problem. No problemo. Okay. So, yes, you've been kicked. So, what we want to do is that we want to tell everyone else on the server that this player has moved. So we're gonna do something really simple. We're just gonna rebroadcast this message. So we're just gonna say server broadcast message. And this will broadcast the whole message from the beginning. It doesn't matter that we read from it or anything like that. The whole message will be rebroadcasted. Because in the end, we don't actually want to change anything. And this is the reason I added back the player ID, just so we can just rebroadcast it like this easily. Because the clients do need an ID for this work. So I'm gonna rebroadcast it, and then on the client we're gonna add some code to handle that. So we can do message type, player position. What the hell? Okay. What the hell?
You're having a thing! You're having a thing that happens to me. Like, is it double inserting? Or is it...
No, it's my keys are not working.
What?
Yeah, that does also happen sometimes.
Is that the wish?
I think it's not double inserting. That happens to me, I think.
Oliver, this is fun anyway, you can stop. Stop hacking in.
Oh, wait, that's not your actual OS not working. Like,
Yeah, I wonder if the
that's
keyboard.
actually worse.
Unplug the keyboard.
Yeah.
It's on the monitor, I think. The white
Oh, it is. Did I enter some weird mode or something? Because there's like the keys that aren't working don't have a light.
It's gamer mode.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Just take a keyboard from Philip. This is not here.
Oh my god. K-mask. Normal. The fuck is going on?
You want a keyboard?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Well, it's not my keyboard. What do you mean? I gave him Philip's.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not gonna give him my keyboard.
You could have just had two keyboards instead.
I can type again. The hero. Okay, so we're gonna handle this then. If we receive a player position, so we're gonna read the ID first of all of the player whose position we're updating. So I'm gonna fetch it. So, and then I'm gonna check actually if the player has control. We're just gonna skip this message because we have control over this player. So it's gonna broadcast, right? It's gonna send to all users. That includes the user that sent the message in the beginning. That means we have already sent the message. We know where we are. We don't care what the server thinks. Now, of course, we might have some, like, okay, if the server teleports you for some reason, like a mod moved you or whatever, then of course we want to override this. But for now, we just want to ignore all player position updates. And then we want to do, yeah, just the same as on the server. You're just going to update the X. And update the Y. And there we go. So now hopefully we should see that players move on both the server and all the clients. And that's because it seems to be working. Everything seems to be matching up with the server and client. If I move, you can see I move on the client server, and hopefully I should be moving for you guys as well. But so now we've replicated the position of players both on the client and on the server. Yes, Emric?
I have an error where it tells me that the player that we just made play position is not used, and it's uninitialized, which I think is weird.
Okay, let me look.
Oh, wait, shit, no, wait, that should be there. Let's check the initialized.
Player's ID.
Yeah, players.
Good catch.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
What the hell is Freya doing here? Freya, get the fuck out of here. Shoot, shoot. No, not shoot, with C. Oh, fuck.
She's not actually here, is she?
Okay. So, great. We reached a good milestone. So we can replicate positions of players between the client and the server. And now we're gonna talk about why what we're doing and what you guys are doing right now is a horrible idea. For many reasons. But first, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. So I'll see you guys back 14 22. I don't condone pictures.
What picture?
That's
We saw nothing.
no consent on that one. But okay, so let's take a 10-minute break. I'll see you guys back 14:22, and then we're gonna conclude this epic lecture. Okay, bye.